What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's daily market recap. For those of you guys tuning in, perhaps for the first time, I do these recaps every single day, whether it's a red day or a green day. So I hope you guys hit the thumbs up. I hope you are subscribed to the channel so you get the notification when these episodes go live. And today we're going to break down each of the stocks I traded. I traded 3 stocks today. At the time that I was trading them, each one were in the top 3 of the leading percentage gainers in the entire market. This is momentum trading. So my routine each day, I sit down about 6:45, right before 7 a.m., and I'm looking at the stocks that at that time are already the leaders in the market. Now, the problem this morning was that our leading gapper was a real estate investment trust, a REIT. This is not typically the sector where we see big momentum. However, this particular REIT has been volatile in the past. So when I sat down and saw it was up over 100%, I thought, okay, there it is, that old friend. I'm familiar with the stock, but I was immediately skeptical. Let's pull it up on the chart and start breaking it down. So you can see my P&L here for the day, $21,405.88. But when I sat down, the leading gapper on the day was WHLR, Wheeler Real Estate Investment Trust. So it's already back down at $2.65 versus a high of $6.50. So this is down right now on the day. Well, actually, it's still up 12%, I guess, based on where it started on after hours yesterday. But nonetheless, so this one popped up, as you can see, in after hours trading, pulled back, sort of sideways, and then squeezed big time at 4 or 5 a.m. So then coming into 5:30 and 6, it curled up again. And right here, it curled up again. And here was the thing. So let's mark out 7 a.m. So this right here is 7 a.m. right there. So the problem was basically we were sitting down and it was up a lot. And then right before 7 a.m., we had this little sell-off. So we had these 4 sort of red candles. And I thought, nah, see, I don't love that. It just felt like a kind of heavy sell-off. The volume was a little bit heavier there. And it popped up coming into the open, or 7 a.m., which is when most retail brokers come online. And I just didn't feel comfortable punching it. The setup wasn't quite there. There wasn't a clear 1-minute setup here. There wasn't a clear 5-minute setup at that moment. It had already kind of broken away. So I was like, I don't know, I've got to kind of wait. And it pops up, it reverses back down. And then that just began this, sort of descent back down to basically where it came from. So no trades on WHLR. That was 7 a.m. top of the hour. And the problem at that point was there wasn't another stock that really looked good. Yes, we had RSLS, 108 million shares of volume, but it's too cheap for me. I don't usually make money on these ones. Yesterday, we had AEHL. This was in sort of the middle of the day. Interestingly, Chinese company. So Chinese companies squeezed up from $2.50 to $9. So 300% plus move on no news. And so this kind of threw me off because, we've got the 90-day pause on tariffs, that news that came out yesterday during regular market hours. And however, it was also coupled with the headline that the tariffs on China are going up to 125%. So I'm like, why is this cannot be interpreted as good news for a Chinese company. So I click on the company and I'm like, well, what's the profile? What do they do? Manufacturer of ceramic tiles in China. So I'm like, ceramic tiles, certainly, and I don't know this company, but if they're doing any degree of exporting those tiles to the United States, well, that's going to be a problem based on these tariffs. But of course, I don't know. Maybe they export to other countries, or maybe it's totally domestic. I'm not sure. But nonetheless, I didn't really understand why that went up so much. But it also, at the same time, made me rethink the bias that I had, which was don't touch Chinese stocks. Don't touch them because of the tariffs. Well, here's a Chinese stock that went up 300%. So maybe that's not the right bias to have. If something starts moving, even if it is Chinese, maybe I should still consider it. Well, I don't know. It would seem that would be the case based on the price action. Really nice 1-minute micro pullback there. A little one here didn't go much higher, and then that 5-minute setup there. So anyway, so that was yesterday. So then 7 a.m. this morning, Wheeler Investment Trust, top of the scans, no trades on that. So now I'm sitting here kind of twiddling my thumbs. Now, yesterday by like 7:15, I was already up almost $30,000. I mean, I came in boom, some great trades right out of the gates. Basically 7 a.m. being kind of like the start for most retail traders. Viru, that stock was up 250%. So the fact that I didn't have any trades for 7 a.m., I was like, uh-oh. Well, let's watch bottom of the hour, 7:30. 7:30 came and went. There was no fresh news. There was nothing that looked good. So now it's 7:30. I still haven't taken any trades. 7:45, nothing. 8 a.m., still nothing. And then we had at 8:05, I saw that ELAB had put out news at 8 a.m. This is a US company, biosciences company. And so what happened on this one was right at 8 a.m., it popped up, but then it pulled back right here. So I didn't take a trade on it at 8 a.m. I was like, hold your horses. Let's just wait a second. But then right here, it curled back up. And so I actually got in here as it curled back up, and I got in and I got out for about $1,800 of profit. No, sorry. You know what? On that trade, let's get dialed in. That was actually a $3,000 winner. So I'll show you where I took that trade. Look at that micro pullback. That's like really solid. So it pops up, micro pullback right there, and then it pushes higher. Hey, you know what I'm gonna say? Those of you guys who are new, who have not already downloaded my micro pullback strategy PDF, I'm gonna put the link in the top of the comments. I'll pin it to the top comment, and I'll put it in the description. If you download the micro pullback strategy PDF, you'll have this document that you can print out, and you can utilize it in your own trading to better understand this setup. Now, there's 3 variations of the micro pullback that I'll trade interchangeably, really. It's just whatever presents itself. So they don't always look picture perfect like this, but when they do, of course, that's great. But there's a couple other variations that you should know about. So make sure you download that PDF and use it as a resource. So here we get this pop, we get this pullback, it squeezes up right there. So I got in right here as it started to pop up there. And then little micro pullback here, I added, doesn't break through basically, and pull away. So got back out of that small trade. So that put me up about $3,800 on the day. First trades on ELAB. So I'm like, all right, that's good. So now I'm at 3,800 on the day, and KTTA starts popping up. Now, yesterday, I can't remember the ticker, but we had a cheaper stock, very similar price range that went from $1.60, $1.80, $2, $2.25, $2.50, $2.80. Next thing you know, it's going up to $3.50. And so, even though this is a little cheaper, I thought because yesterday I underestimated one that was very similar, maybe I should give this a chance. And at the time, this was pretty much poised to become the leading percentage gainer. And so I ended up jumping in it on a micro pullback as well for the break of $2. So really when it started to pull away here and volume started to increase, I was like, all right, it's game time. So I got in right there. This is one of the variations of a micro pullback. So I got in right there, and we ended up getting a squeeze up to about 210. So on that first trade right in there, I actually added on this pullback, was looking for the squeeze higher. It comes back down, then it pops up. That's not really what I wanted. I made about $1,800 on that first trade. So now I'm 2 trades in to the day, or maybe 3, and I'm up about 4,800, almost $5,000. So I'm like, all right, $5,000, that's kind of my first goal. That's my cold market daily goal. So, good, I've got it. And it's, what was that? Time was this? This is about 8:25. So I'm like, all right, I'm getting something going here. This is good. And then PRFX pops up. So PRFX, this one was sort of interesting. Again, it kind of pops up first here. I saw it pop up, it dropped back down, and then right here it curls, and on this curl, I got in it. So what I was looking for basically was to see if it could hold VWAP, and it did, and I was looking for a target of high a day. And I jumped in that, and this squeezed all the way up to a high of 320, pulled back, goes to 340. It dips down, and I'm thinking, all right, so we're pulling back a little bit. But right in there, I got a really nice trade. Now, this ended up coming back to this area and getting back up above VWAP and giving us another little setup here as it climbed back up towards 340. Now, I was hoping we would get a squeeze through the pre-market highs, but it couldn't do that. Nonetheless, I was able to make $8,700 trading it, beginning in this area here, and then no trades through here, and then back in for this little momentum, that little ride there. So not bad. Now that was PRFX. On ELAB, I ended up going back to this one as it came up right here. So it ended up popping and dropping. That was kind of crazy. I wasn't watching it at the time. So it was on a side chart, but I didn't see that. So didn't take that trade. But when it came back up here, I got back in as I was looking for this squeeze right here back up to 550. But it wasn't able to break and hold over that level. And this was a really interesting pattern right here where you see how those topping tails are getting more and more and more dramatic. That to me was just a big red flag to take my hands off and walk away from it. So I walked away from that one, but green, 7,800. And on KTTA, I ended up getting back in this one, not at the open right here, but when it curled on the first 5-minute candle to make a new high right here. So from about $2 back up to 220. And I took a bit of a bigger position on that one because it was a 5-minute setup and this one had really good volume. But nonetheless, not a hugely profitable trade. But the combination of these 3 stocks and maybe a dozen trades that I took got me up 21,000 on the day, which in my book is a really solid day. That's my hot market daily goal, $20,000. So now let's get a little perspective. I'm sitting right now at 171,000 on the month of April, and this is only the 8th day of the month. So I'm at 133,000. Well, actually, and this doesn't include today's profit. So today, the 10th, I'll be, so it'll be $190,000 on the month and 154,000 on the week. So this is really good. And here's the thing. Last month in March, I showed up every single day and I didn't have any records. I didn't break any records for biggest green day. I didn't break any records for biggest red day, although this was the biggest red day I'd had in over a year. But, in terms of all-time records, March just didn't really have anything big for me. It was kind of a tricky month. It was a little bit slower month. I made $162,000 showing up every single day. And, this month I've showed up every day for 8 days and I've already made more than that at 171 before today, 191. We go back to the month of February and I was sitting at just under $500,000. We look at January, I was sitting at 400,000. And here in January, averaging, about 100,000 a week. The last 2 weeks were, of course, better than the first 3 weeks. In February, averaging over $100,000 a week. So here we are in April, first week, 37,000 bucks. All right, nothing crazy. But now 150,000 on week 2. All right, we've got 2.5 weeks left, plus we've got Friday. So now I'm starting to get excited about what this market has in store for us. Now, yesterday was possibly one of the biggest intraday market moves that we've had in decades. I mean, the NASDAQ was up 12% in one day. And you know what that speaks to? Why it's so important to be in the market. You know what a lot of people do? They panic and they sell. They go to cash. On their long-term investments, not day trading, but on long-term investments, they go to cash. And they think, I'll get back in when it gets better. You miss a day like that in the market where the whole market goes up 12%, that might be the bulk. I mean, that's going to really hurt your performance for the entire year. So when it comes to long-term investing, you really, my opinion, that's just my opinion, I take the approach of cost basis averaging. So where I'm just basically adding a fixed amount of money on regular intervals. And when the market's down, that amount of money will buy more shares. When the market's up, it's going to buy fewer shares, but I just keep adding. Now, when the market dips down, all right, we're in an extended drawdown. I get to accumulate more shares because if you look at history, the history of the market over the last 100 years, we've had 56 market corrections of 10% or more. We've had 22 of them that became 20% corrections. In other words, you get a 10% correction every other year and a 20% bear market every 4 to 5 years. That's history. And what happens following those dips? Recovery. Average a 4-month recovery on a correction, 9-month recovery on a bear market. So if you understand that this is the market cycle that we've been in historically for over 100 years, anytime the market dips, it's an opportunity to accumulate shares. And in fact, what's interesting is this week, we've had the highest volume in the entire market in over 18 years. Wow. And you know what happened on Friday? On Friday, and it was 4.7 billion. It was the highest amount of retail trader investment that the market had ever seen, which speaks to retail traders that are getting wise and instead of panic selling are starting to buy the dip. And so, historically that has performed well. So anyways, now when it comes to day trading, of course, I cut my losses quickly. I get out, and then I'm happy to get back in if the setup forms, but that's a separate strategy. I think when it comes to day trading, though, we've got, right now we're in a good position, and I'm excited for the month of April. PRFX, I wouldn't count this one out completely. It's kind of starting to curl back up here. If it could break through 320, you might have something to work with, but high volume red candles, a number of rejections, that makes it a little bit choppy. Looking at the level 2 on this, your halt level's 328. It's kind of close. So now you're at a time of day with circuit breaker halts, and unfortunately, that's going to make it a little bit more difficult for it to get going and really pick up momentum before you're stuck in a halt. So I'm going to lock it up here, $21,405 on the day and 88 cents. That's a solid green day. And for those of you guys who are new, I do hope you hit that thumbs up. I hope you're subscribed to the channel. I've got some great episodes that are going to be coming out over the next few days and, well, really over the next couple of weeks. So you'll want to be tuned in for those. And if you didn't already download my micro pullback strategy PDF, the link is pinned at the top of the comments and in the description. I will now put a link to a couple other episodes I think you'll enjoy. I uploaded an episode here on how to make money in the market, the secret of how traders are doing it consistently, and I broke it down into 5 steps, the 5 phases of learning how to trade. Someone who just watched this episode said, Ross, this is the best episode you've ever uploaded. Wow, that's a vote of confidence. So check out that episode, it's right there, and I'll put a couple others right here that I think you'll enjoy. All right, thanks as always for tuning in. Reminder, trading is risky, my results aren't typical, so manage your risk, take it slow, and I'll see you back here live streaming tomorrow, 7 a.m. for members at Warrior Trading.